Hey, good evening. Well, I think you can probably see just by the light on my face that it's that time of the evening again. Perfect time to catch the sunset. Just walking down now. Uh-oh. Sometimes the dogs collect this trash and they treat it like it is treasure because it might smell of food, and then they carry it and drop it wherever. And some more here. Temptations. Oh, I'll put that in here for now. No, that's not for you. Okay? It's not for you. You wily dog. Hey. 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 So back to the sunset. Oh, look at that. It's dropped just in that few moments. Because this is the special time. Actually, the sky is not so brightly lit. It's surprising how it does vary. As you may have heard Beth say, when Nanai and Beth's dad first came to this hill, none of this was like this. It was all bare hills, like those hills over there. And they were given when Tai married Beth's mom. We're trying to find out, not sure whether it was 15, 16 or 17. Beth says it varies depending on when you ask Nanai, but certainly it was around 16 or 17. And when they first came here, none of it was planted. Now, the difference between our house and Nanai's, which you will have seen on other videos, or you can see even from here, you can see between the guest house and the red house, our house, is the roof. So you can see there's a difference of about, let me see, maybe 10 or 12 feet. And that area was leveled out by Beth's dad, who was a very hard worker. And it was not easy then. They built a tiny house that would have been something, not a whole lot more than that, okay, obviously with walls. But if you look down there at that part of Jessica's house, which is what was put up later so that they can have a place to live while the main house, while their house is being built. And that's what happened with Beth's mom and dad. And they came up, and Beth's father had worked for Nanai's father, and they were given, I think, this part and part of the rest of it. It's apparently about 11 hectares, some of it owned by Beth's uncle. And they were given this, and then he built a small house that they could live in straight away, and then he built the house that actually we knocked down to build Nanai's house as it is now. We built her a new house, I think last year, and we knocked down the old house. So the old house stood there for some 50 years. It was without running water and without electricity. We lost the sun now. It's gone. But as I always say, it leaves behind this incredible sky. Not so colourful, not what I would call a Leonardo da Vinci sky, because there are no clouds to give that amazing colour. But when they came, it was the start of a family of 10 children. And Beth is, she won't have it this way, but Beth is the baby of the family because she was the last. Now that's all the way from that house there, which is Julio's, and actually that's Julio right there. And he's planting up here. Hi, Lena. Hi. So that's Lena's house, and obviously none of this was here then. Not even these trees. All of these trees were planted, just like Beth got Rado and Julio to plant. I think they planted recently 80 coconuts. So they lived here very basic for a long time while this began to be grown up, so that there was some shade and it felt like a home. But when Beth and I arrived, the second house was the last house that had been built, and that was what Beth was born in, and that's what was there when we arrived. And Beth and I lived there with Nanai for a while until I built that house up there. And Beth told me a story about her father. Father was a very hard worker. He worked, and there's a place over, which I think is over there. You can't actually see it well from here, but you can see it better from our house. But through the coconut trees there is a place there which was reputed to yield some gold. And the story that Beth has is that her father went there and he mined for gold. I got a feeling that this is in the creek, which is how we often see the American, the Klondike, and all of that gold rush. The way that they were sifting tiny little particles of gold, which when they put it all together was enough to scratch out a living. Well, Beth's dad was able to buy a Carabao, and then that made life an awful lot easier. Now, it still wasn't an easy life. He worked in the rice fields, and these rice fields he dug out by hand at first until he got the Carabao, and then, of course, as I said, life became easier. But at one stage, while the plantation that you can see on the top there, that I've walked you through on many other occasions, was set fire. There was a fire set, and it was decided that that fire had been set deliberately by somebody, and Beth's father was falsely accused of doing that. Such is the vendetta and the role of the vendetta in hilltop farming and the communities that are up here. Anyway, the owner of the plantation sent two men on motorcycles, and they took Beth's dad to the big house of the owner. And the owner, you have to forgive me if I see this as a story and tell it how I think it may have transpired. But I can imagine that he was hauled into the rich man's house, and it was not pleasant and it was not fair. And he told his side of the story, but apparently it wasn't believed. So he was allowed to return home, but later they took him. I'm assuming that he came home, but maybe not. Maybe right from there they tied him to the back of a jeep and they dragged him. Now, I don't know how far they dragged him. He obviously lived through that. And Nanai and the older boys went to find him, and they found him and brought him home. Of course, when they were looking for him, they wouldn't know whether he would be dead or alive. And back then, it wouldn't have mattered in the overall picture to a lot of people. But anyway, he lived through that, and that was certainly a peak moment in their lives. They continued obviously to live and to farm, and they made this into a successful place. You've seen down there, you can see the rice fields, and you can see Rado's house, and you can see Julio's house, and you can see Julio digging with the most popular, two popular tools. One is the spike, what I call the spike, the pole, which is a piece of rebar, heavy rebar, that's pointed at one end and like a chisel at the other. And that's doing everything the hard way. So we're almost out of light now. It will get dark very, very quickly from here, and I'm going to walk home. When I say walk home, don't think I'm a hero. It's only there. So this is a foreigner in the Philippines. It's another little story from the hill. Hope you'll be back. Bye for now.